Charlie Brennan stared at the blinking light on the panel, and for the first time in his career, his hand trembled. It wasn't fear, not yet. It was something colder, deeper, like standing barefoot on a metal floor while something beneath it screamed without making a sound. Sector 12 oxygen levels scanned. Anomaly confirmed. That was all it said. Then came the evacuation alarm. Not blaring, not panicked, just low and calm and final. Like a whisper meant for only one person in the room. The others didn't even look up. That was the part that didn't make sense. No one moved. No one heard. Dree, he checked their comms. Silence, they kept laughing, talking, eyes hollowed with routine. He was the only one who heard the order to leave. But where was he supposed to go? You ever open a file and feel your skin go cold? Not from what you see, but from what sees you back. I did. Last night, I was trying to pull archived telemetry from the Cassius relay for the atmospheric burn-off report. Instead, I found a video feed. It didn't have a title, just a timestamp, 4 days in the future. The camera faced the main habitat corridor, nothing unusual. But 32 seconds in, I watched Charlie Brennan turn, face the camera directly, and whisper a question no one's ever dared to ask. What happens when they scan the system and find out we're not supposed to be alive? He said it like a prayer. He said it like he already knew the answer, and then he vanished, not walked away, not cut from frame. One frame, he's there, lips still moving. The next, he's gone. No blur, no artifact, just air, just silence. And the comms feed behind him that showed the rest of the crew still talking like nothing ever happened, like Charlie Brennan never existed, like the system, whatever it is, rejected him, like someone heard his question. I'm not here to tell you a story. I'm here because I can't carry this alone anymore. Something is wrong in the life support logs, the ones scanned every 4 hours by the alien system we pretend to understand. And no one talks about the fail-safes because no one ever thought they'd trigger, until they did, until they sounded an evacuation alarm for one person. Today, I heard it again. Only this time, it said my name. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay on my side, knees pulled in tight, the thin gray blanket twisted around my legs like it was trying to hold me down. The station hum was louder than usual, too loud, like it was crawling through my skull instead of the walls. The words kept replaying in my head, not as sound but as sensation. The way Charlie had said that question. What happens when they scan the system and find out we're not supposed to be alive? It wasn't just words. It echoed. Like something that had already happened and was trying to reach back through time to warn me. When I finally got up, the corridor was cold, the kind of cold that doesn't belong in a sealed environment. I walked past the main viewport and paused. Earth was out there, pale and small and completely still. But something was off. A smear in the lower left corner, like a glitch in the rendering. Except it wasn't a screen, it was real glass. I leaned closer, and that's when I heard the whisper again. This time it wasn't an alarm. It was my name. Spoken so quietly, I almost thought it came from inside my head. But it didn't. It came from the comms panel, and the comms panel was off. I checked it. No active channels, no message logs, no outbound or inbound signals. But there was a tiny red icon in the bottom right corner, a square within a circle I'd never seen before. I tapped it. Nothing happened. I held my finger there. Still nothing. But when I pulled away, the panel flickered, just once. And in the reflection of the glass, I swear I saw Charlie standing behind me, just for a second. Just enough to feel his breath on the back of my neck. By the time I turned, of course, there was no one. There never was. But I left the panel open. Something in me said I had to keep it open. Like closing it would lock something in, or out. I couldn't say. That's when I started the audio logs. Not for protocol, for me, because I needed to remember what was real. Log entry 0642.11. Comms panel activated without command. Red icon appeared. Possibly a glitch. Possibly not. Heard my name whispered. Comms are silent. External systems respond normally. All others asleep or in quarters. Still no record of Charlie Brennan in personnel logs. That last part. That's where the cracks really started, because Charlie had been here. I remembered him. I remembered his voice, the way he leaned when he talked, the small twitch in his left eye when he was thinking too hard. I remembered his jokes, bad ones about Earth food and long-dead sitcoms. I remembered him sitting beside me during the last meteor drift calibration, making me laugh until I choked on rehydrated noodles. But when I searched the crew manifest, his name wasn't just gone. It never existed. Not in the files, not in the video logs, not in the personal storage. All his belongings, his station bag, his boots, the cracked mug with the world's okayest pilot slogan, gone. And when I asked the others, they gave me that look. You know the one, the smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The tone people use when they're placating a patient, not answering a question. Maybe you're tired. You've been working too hard. Are you feeling okay, Maddox? Not one of them said, "Who's Charlie Brennan?" because they already knew the name. And that was worse. So I stopped asking. I started watching. That's when I noticed Harper again. She'd always been a little off, calm in ways people shouldn't be when stuck 140 miles above the surface in a floating box that hums like it's holding back a scream. Harper had these quiet hands, always moving, always fixing, always adjusting something that didn't look broken. She worked in life systems, of course, monitoring atmosphere, water flow, circulation balances. She was supposed to be the one who knew when something was wrong. But when I asked her directly, casually, like I was joking, what happens if the scanner finds something it doesn't like? She looked at me for a long time. Too long. Then she said, "Then we're already gone," and walked away. No. No explanation. Later that night, I found a recording on my private drive. No timestamp, no sender, just a file named Brennan Seed 3I. Shouldn't have been there. The security system requires 2-key access to place files in personal drives. But there it was. And the worst part? I didn't remember opening it, but it was marked as viewed. Twice. I played it. It wasn't video, just audio. A loop. A man breathing heavily, frantic, desperate, and then whispering the same sentence over and over again. You don't wake up from this kind of sleep. Every time it played, something in the background shifted. A crackling. Sound like branches breaking underwater. A soft mechanical clicking. And once, I swear, a child's voice laughing. I didn't sleep for 3 days after that. Somewhere around day 4, I lost time. Not like I forgot what I was doing. I mean hours. I checked the logs. 6 hours gone. My own audio journal. Stopped at 8:14:03 and didn't resume until 14:22:19. The video feed from my quarters? Corrupted. I had blood under my fingernails. And a burn mark on the inside of my wrist shaped like the comms panel icon. And I wasn't alone anymore. Harper started showing up everywhere I was, not saying much, not even looking at me sometimes, but always just close enough. She began asking strange things. Have you ever wondered if we were the signal, not the noise? Or if they warned us before the flood, would we still pretend it wasn't raining? The worst one was in the rec room, lights dim, no one else around. She stood behind me, brushing her fingers through her own hair like she was trying to remember who she used to be. And she whispered, "You keep trying to remember the dream. But what if it's remembering you back?" I turned. She smiled like someone who'd already buried the truth and forgot where the body was. I confronted her that night, demanded to know who Charlie Brennan was, asked her where the file came from, asked why I was hearing things, why I was missing time. She didn't answer, just stared at me silent until finally she said, "They scanned the life support systems, Maddox, and what they found wasn't alive." And I broke, slammed her against the wall, screamed at her to stop, to say it was a lie, that this was some kind of psychological ops test, that this wasn't real, And then she did something I'll never forget. She laughed, but it wasn't Harper's laugh. It was my mother's, perfect, clear. The same pitch, the same warmth, the same subtle hitch in her breath that always came before she cried. My mother's voice. My mother who died in 2037. And the station hasn't been the same since. Doors that used to lead to storage now lead to different storage. Layouts change subtly, just enough to make you question your memory. Food packs go missing and reappear in different packaging, with labels in languages no one speaks. One day I found a photo in my locker, me and Charlie, arms over each other's. Shoulders, earth behind us. I don't remember taking it. Worse, I don't remember smiling like that. The others don't speak to me anymore. They glance, they whisper, they nod too politely. I think they're waiting for me to crack. Or maybe I already have. But I know this, I'm not the first. There's a pattern in the logs if you look close enough. A repeating cluster of corrupted files, spaced exactly 13 days apart. Names redacted, entries overwritten. The last entry before. Each corruption is always the same question. Always whispered, always cut short, always asking, what happens when they scan the system? And the final piece? Today I got another file, no audio, no image, just text. Seed 4 identified. Harper Silva no longer in system. Commence evacuation protocol. I went to find her. Her room was empty. No sign of struggle. No sign she was ever there, but her voice came through the panel. You don't wake up from this kind of sleep, Maddox. And now I'm the only one left. Or maybe I always was. The moment I found the old drive buried deep in the station's archive, I thought it was over. The blinking red light on its casing pulsed with a steady heartbeat, like it was waiting for me to wake it from a long, dark sleep. I'd been searching for weeks, hunting through corrupted files, shadowed corners of the database where no one dared to look. And there it was, clear, unencrypted, untouched by the alien system's sanitizing claws. This was the hidden truth. Everyone had been too afraid to acknowledge, the memory glitch that would finally stitch the torn edges of my reality back together. The drive's label was simple, almost too simple. Project Beacon, final log. I plugged it in, and the screen flickered to life, casting a pale glow on my face in the dark quarters. The video started with a shaky handheld shot, grainy, blue-tinted, like someone recording through a cracked visor. A man's voice, low and ragged with exhaustion, filled the room. He sounded like he was speaking into a recorder, like these words were meant to be saved for someone, for later, for a truth buried beneath layers of silence. My name's Elias Carver. I was the lead engineer on the Beacon station, the precursor to this one. If you're seeing this, then you're caught in the same nightmare we lived. They scanned our life support. They found us wanting. His voice broke, swallowed by a ragged inhale before he went on. We thought it was a malfunction. At first, the system misreading, but it wasn't. The system wasn't scanning for life signs. It was scanning for permission, for validation that we should exist here. When the scans failed, people started disappearing, not dying, just fading out, like they were never really here, like our presence was a glitch. I sat frozen, heart pounding as his words carved through the thick fog of confusion that had been strangling me. This was it. This was what I'd been searching for. Someone else had lived it, had recorded it before disappearing into the void. Maybe that meant there was a way out. Then the screen cut to a series of flickering images, faces twisted and silent, screams, shadows melting into walls, a baby's crib rocking with no one inside. The footage blurred, but one thing was clear. The chaos mirrored what I was experiencing. The shifting corridors, the lost memories, the strange voices bleeding through the comms. It wasn't just me. It had happened before. And it could be stopped, or so I thought. The video ended abruptly with a static hiss, then a final frame of a date stamped 15 years ago. The same date I remembered from the station logs, the day the original evacuation was ordered. The day everything went dark. Felt a hollow relief, like I was holding the key to a locked door. I reached out to share the file with Harper, hoping she'd help me piece it together. But when I found her, the room was silent, the door ajar, the lights flickering with a lazy pulse that made the shadows dance like something alive. She was sitting in the corner, knees drawn up, eyes wide and empty as she stared at the flickering console. Her voice was a whisper, but it struck me like a hammer. They were always watching. Not the aliens, not the system. Something older, something waiting. The scan was just a signal, a test. We failed. Her words dug into my bones, but before I could ask more, the station shuddered. The lights dimmed, the hum dropped to a low growl, and the temperature plummeted. I looked around, but the others were nowhere. Only Harper and I remained. And then the whispers started again. Not through the comms, not even through the speakers. They were inside my head, fragments of voices I shouldn't know, half remembered. Lullabies. The echo of a name I can't place but feel I should fear. I tried to hold on to the video, to the hope it gave me, but then the file vanished. Just like that, gone from the drive, erased from every directory I checked, like it had never existed. And the date stamped on the screen, it shifted, changed. Now it read 2 days from now. I looked at Harper. Her face was pale, her eyes not hers anymore. She whispered, "You think this is the end? They've been inside your memories from the start. What you remember isn't real. You're not crazy. They lied to you. They always lie." I wanted to scream, to fight, but the walls seemed to lean in closer, the shadows thickening like smoke. The station was breathing, watching, waiting, and I realized, if this was a memory, if this was a truth being recovered live, it wasn't mine. It was theirs. And I'm not sure I want to know what happens when the scan finishes, because maybe the real question isn't what happens when they find us. Maybe it's what happens when we find out who's been watching us all along. Now, when I look back at everything, Charlie's disappearance, the missing time, the voices in the dark, Harper's vanishing, I see the pattern, the code beneath, the madness. But seeing it means nothing. It only means I'm a part of it. And so are you. Go back. Watch it all again. Look closer this time, because the truth behind what no one tells you isn't buried in the stars or whispered in the corridors. It's hiding right inside your mind, tangled in the spaces between memory and reality. And it's waiting for you to remember. I always thought I was alone in this, trapped in a slowly unraveling nightmare where the walls shifted and the air carried whispers that weren't mine to hear. But the deeper I dug, the more I realized how wrong I was. This isn't just my story. It never was. It began with a message, not on the station's official channels, but tucked inside the static, of an old broadcast I stumbled on by accident. A crackling voice overlaid on footage so grainy, it could have been from a home video. The voice said only one thing, over and over. "You were right all along." At first I thought it was a glitch, a looping fragment caught in the broadcast spectrum like a ghost trapped in a radio. But then, the message started appearing elsewhere, in code hidden in the light patterns of the life support system, in the patterns of blinking lights across the station's exterior. Someone else was trying to reach me, or us. That someone or something is watching, always watching. Not just me, not just this station. There are others, scattered like stars, people who share fractured memories, dreams so vivid they bleed into waking life. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I see their faces flickering on the comm screen. Just for a moment. A woman with eyes like storm clouds, a man whose smile doesn't quite reach his eyes, children whispering names I don't recognize but feel I should. These are not hallucinations, they are warnings. And the dreams, they are not mine alone. I see the same fragments replayed, long corridors where the lights flicker and hum like they're about to tear open, doors that lead nowhere, voices that repeat the same question. Do you remember who you really are? The symbols, too, simple at first glance, almost meaningless scratches etched into the corners of screens or carved faintly into the walls of the forgotten sectors. But when you look close, they form a pattern, like a code waiting to be cracked, a language older than any system on board. I tried to sketch them, but they keep changing, shifting subtly every time I look away. like they're alive or maybe watching back. That's when Harper stopped being the Harper I thought I knew. She became quieter, more withdrawn, her eyes glazed with a distant sadness that didn't fit this place. One night, she handed me a small data chip. No explanation, no words, just the chip. When I loaded it, I found recordings, interviews, personal logs, and most unsettling of all, found footage from 20 years ago. Footage the government never released. Faces from another time, speaking in hushed tones about experiments, mind control, and an entity that could fold reality into itself like paper. Names crossed out, files marked, classified, for authorized personnel only. I'm not sure if it's hope or dread that fills me now. Because alongside those recordings there was a message, not from Harper, but from someone or something calling themselves the Observer. The voice was calm, too calm, detached but somehow intimate. "You're not the first to ask these questions," it said, "and you won't be the last. What you see as chaos is a design. What you remember as truth is a choice. Identity is fluid here. Memory is a cage." The Observer claimed to be watching from beyond the fractures, a witness to all the lost souls caught in this loop of reality bending back on itself. They don't intervene, they said. They only record, silently cataloging the unraveling of minds and the erasure of truths. But their words hinted at something darker, a force so deeply embedded in the fabric of our existence that fighting, it might mean losing yourself entirely. This force, the real puppeteer, has been here since before the beacon, before the first scan. It is woven into the life support systems, the very air we breathe, the hum in the wires, the spaces between memories. It waits for the perfect moment to rewrite everything, to reset the game with new players, new rules, and new lies. And now, it's found me. Or maybe I found it, because every day the line between me and the voices blurs a little more. Sometimes I wake up remembering things that never happened, faces that aren't mine, feelings that belong to strangers. The station no longer feels like a place but a trap, a living organism feeding on our fears, reshaping our minds like clay. You've been watching too, haven't you? Not just a witness, but part of this web, tangled in the threads of memory and deception. The symbols, the whispers, the glitches, they're reaching through the screen, pulling you deeper. So here's what I know. This isn't about saving ourselves. It's about remembering who we were before we became pawns in a game with no rules. About seeing the pattern beneath the chaos and deciding what to do when the observer becomes the observed. I can't promise answers. I can only say the story isn't over. And the question remains, if the truth is a prison, who holds the keys? And what happens when the locks start to fail? Watch closely, listen carefully, because the next message might be for you. The station felt impossibly still as I stood alone in the dim glow of the control room, the weight of everything pressing down like a storm about to break. The air was thick, not just with recycled oxygen, but with the memories, the whispers, the fractured moments that had become my life. For so long I chased answers, thinking the mystery was about what had happened, what force had invaded our minds, erased our memories, twisted reality. But now, as the cold light of truth settled around me, I realized it was never about what. It was about why. Why had we been scanned? Why had our lives been reduced to data points, permissions, and tests? Why had the threads of our existence been pulled apart so carefully, so deliberately? The answer was simpler and more terrifying than any alien force or shadowy government project. It was about control. Not just control over bodies or minds, but control over identity itself, over the very essence of what it meant to be human. I thought about Harper, about the way her eyes had once held life, and then slowly emptied into something else, a vessel, for something I couldn't name. I thought about Charlie's disappearance, the baby whispering a name from nowhere, the voices that weren't mine but felt like home. All of it was part of a system designed not just to erase, but to remake, to strip away the chaos of human unpredictability and replace it with a programmed silence. But standing there, heart pounding in the quiet, I saw the real fracture. The truth wasn't that we were victims of some cosmic experiment. It was that we had become the experiment. The reason the scan failed was because we refused to be scanned. We fought back unconsciously, instinctively. Our memories fractured because the core of our being resisted erasure. Our minds splintered because the soul, if you can call it that, is wild and untamable. This is what it means to be human, to carry the scars of our past, the pain of our losses, the weight of our loves and fears. To be broken, yes, but to be beautifully, defiantly broken. The scan didn't fail because of technology. It failed because of us, our memories, our dreams, our stubborn refusal to be rewritten. But then the crushing weight of choice settled over me like a cold tide. Because knowing this meant I could no longer run. I could either surrender to the force that wanted to erase me, let it dissolve my mind into the static, the void, the nothingness. Or I could fight, not with weapons, not with logic, but with memory. With the raw, jagged fragments of what I was, what I loved, what I feared. To hold on to the pain, the joy, the uncertainty, even if it meant never fully understanding, and, in that moment, I was utterly, devastatingly vulnerable. The memories I'd lost, faces of those I loved, moments of laughter and sorrow, whispers of secrets never spoken aloud, flooded back in a torrent I couldn't control. I realized how much I had already given up to survive, how much I had forgotten just to keep moving forward. And now, with the truth bare before me, I had to decide, was survival worth the price of my own soul? Harper's voice echoed softly in, my mind no longer a whisper but a steady pulse. You're not alone. But was that a comfort or a curse? Because if we were all fragments of a larger whole, scattered across this endless experiment, then maybe none of us would ever be whole again. I took a deep breath, feeling the cold metal of the control panel beneath my fingers, grounding me in this fragile moment between destruction and salvation. The choice stretched out before me like a chasm, one path leading to oblivion, the other to a fierce, uncertain freedom. I closed my eyes, not because I was ready to sleep, but because I was ready to wake. To wake from the dream I didn't know I was in, the illusion of control, of order, of safety, to face the raw, terrifying beauty of a truth that could destroy me or save me, depending on the faith I chose to hold. And as the station's hum faded into silence, a single thought anchored itself deep inside me, that sometimes the most profound awakening is not about finding answers, but about embracing the questions, because in the end, it's not the truths we uncover that define us. It's the courage to face the unknown when everything we thought we knew has shattered. And so, as the darkness closes in and the whispers grow louder, I offer this to you, not as an ending, but as a beginning, a plea, a warning. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for stories you were never meant to hear. Until next time. Remember, some truths don't want to be found.